test. How's that sound up there, Adam? Adam and oh, is that Nelson up there? Oh, okay, sorry, I couldn't see you. The halo, the light coming from behind you made you look like an angel.
Glad that you were able to show up tonight. I'm sure you had a roller coaster of a time getting here. We talked a little bit in between. But Walter Rogers, I'm really looking forward to his series of presentations. Just to kind of let you know, he may tell you, but tonight is our first. Tomorrow morning, we're not having Sabbath school sections. He's going to lead out. Then the 11 o'clock service, then 2 presentations after our fellowship meal. And so I'm really excited about it. And I'll give a formal introduction tomorrow. But Walter and I know just a little. In fact, this is the first time we've actually met, but we did do a Zoom together, and you can tell them about that. But it was about, he's from Canada. He's Canadian.
That's right, eh?
And so we just welcome you here, and I like to offer a word of prayer before we begin. Lord, I just want to thank you for Walter being here, taking the time to make these presentations, and I pray that as we listen, we learn such wonderful things about you and your creation. Thank you for this gift to share this wonderful message in an attractive way. Bless him in a powerful way. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks so much, Pastor Dave. And yeah, it's fun to finally meet the legend. I was actually in his old church just a few weeks ago, and got to meet them, and they're like, boy, we are sure glad that guy. No, I'm just kidding. They're very blessed. Sometimes a church has a strong pastor, and I've been around the block a little bit, and then the new pastor doesn't manage it well, and the church gets split, and all sorts of. No, they have a wonderful pastor there. They love their new pastor, and they love their old pastor. So they say you always make someone happy. You either make them happy when you come, or you make them happy when you leave. So apparently they weren't happy when you left, but God is blessing them with that, and that just thrills my heart to see a ministry gets built up, gets invested in for 20 years. I think you were there, and to see it continue to do well. And as well as my church, when we first met, I was at a large church in Canada, and then you'll see why. I'll share my story here tonight. I ended up resigning there to do this. And then I did my absolute best to hand over the reins, right? Because, I'd worked there for over 10 years, and, you put your heart into it and building up the ministries and the outreach and programs, and really want to see that continue, And so it's been neat. So they're still doing most of what I was doing there, and a lot of my volunteers stayed. Sometimes when the pastor moves on, the volunteers go as well. And so this is the first time I've left a place, and most of my volunteers stayed with the new pastors. That was really neat. But well, thank you for having me here. I need to introduce not only myself. I'm Walter Rogers, so it's like Walt Disney and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. This is my beautiful family here. This is my wife, Sarah. She has a grandfather in Denver. She went over there today, and then she's a little hesitant to come back with the snow. I guess you go uphill and downhill again. So that's my beautiful wife, Sarah. Then in the back is my favorite teenager, Clayton. He's now 14, freaking me out, growing so fast. And we're actually looking for a high school for him. So I might be moving to Colorado. I don't know. My resume is in the conference here. We've done a 2-year road trip talking about evidence for God. And one of the big reasons we want to stop, I love doing this. I could keep doing this. I don't need a house. I love my RV. My RV is right through there. Look through that window, etc. But my family is really important as well. So we want to put the kids back in school. I want my oldest son to have a wonderful high school experience. So that's Clayton in the back. Up here is Kodiak. He loves dirt biking. And I've wanted a dirt bike for many years. So finally last year, I believe in delayed gratification. I was able to buy him a dirt bike. I don't want him to be lonely on his dirt bike, so being a caring father, I had to buy one for myself. My youngest son over here, Christopher, he has my prankster sense of humor, and he loves waking up in the morning. I'm like, son, you can sleep in, but he's up doing his thing. Once, he has to read the Bible first, then he gets to go on the computer, and we do this video game learning thing, Duolingo, so he's learning Spanish and Portuguese. And then the rose among the thorns, my little beautiful girl, Kalea, my princess. You'll see her tomorrow. She's gotten a little bit shy with new people, but when she opens up, she's very extroverted. Okay? Clayton does not like hugs, so you don't need to hug Clayton. He doesn't want your hug, really. But Kalea would love a hug from you. She's a real sweetheart. And in 2024, we sold our house in Vancouver. Our family of 6 moved into this motorhome. That's the dirt bike hauling trailer. We are not pulling all 3, but what we do when we don't have the trailer, we pull the pickup behind the motorhome. So my wife took that pickup to Denver today. That's our small vehicle. And we support the oil patch. There's nothing here gets good mileage. It's all horrible. But we just love traveling around the world, sharing evidence for God, and we want to get you guys involved right now. So pull out your smartphones. We're going to play a little game to start with, Kahoot, and let's get this going up here. We're working on this earlier, so it should work. There we go. So go to kahoot.it, Kahoot.it, and enter that number. Then it'll ask you to put your a little name in there. You can call yourself Bob, Jim, whatever. Just make something up that's not rude. Okay, so no swear words, please. And put that in there. We'll see your name pop up there. Okay, so go to Kahoot, Kahoot.it, and put in that number, and that'll bring you into this game, and you'll put a nickname for yourself. And we're going to play a little game. We'll do this today, and if it works, we'll do it tomorrow afternoon. We won't have time tomorrow morning. The program's a little bit tight. So there we go. Bob, Cupo, Rachel, Brandon. And again, you can make any name up you want. Kids always make up some crazy name like SpongeBob or whatever, because it's not that crazy, but they have fun with it. So there's CM. All right. Okay, and let me see here. We have a decent number of people. So yeah, if you have your smartphone here, pretty much everybody has a smartphone now. Go to the website, Kahoot, Kahoot.it. Enter that in, and I want to hear where you guys are a little bit. And then tomorrow afternoon, pay attention. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll do review questions. And tonight, it's no points. We're just doing it for fun. And then tomorrow afternoon, we'll do it for points. So come ready to be a champion. Let me see here. All right. If you're already up there, say amen. If you're not up there, say please wait. Oh, no problem here. You want to use my phone? Right here. We got this. Oh, it'll work on Android too. It'll work on anything, but let me see here. Yeah, Android, iPhone. You can use a laptop, an iPad, anything with a website access. So Android's fine. Kahoot.it and 540-7719. We're going to wait for this beautiful young lady over here. Once she's there. All right, and everybody else is good, right? Awesome. .it. Dennis Anaguda. Good for you, Dennis. Who's Dennis? Right, Dennis, Elder Dennis. All right, oh, Walt, I'm there. I'm not going to play, though. But, I'm gonna take myself off of that. There, it should take me out. Okay. Rachel, Jacob H, Kamaki. Who's Kamaki? Hey, Kamaki, how's it going? R&B, King David. Oh, we just got David in. Pastor David, did it take you that long to get on there? I thought you were a runner. I thought you were fast. Okay. I hate to call you out like that. On live stream too, the whole internet knows I called you out. All right, we're good? Okay, here we go. Let's see how this works. So this is just a little bit of a survey. First question is a little bit goofier. We'll get a bit more serious. If you had $1 million, what would you do with it? So 3, 2, 1, here we go. So there's no right or wrong answer here. This is just for fun. Survey, if I had $1 million, there's a Canadian song like that. Red, I would drop out of school and live on the beach. Blue, I would get the best possible education for myself. Yellow, I would invest it and become a philanthropist and support Pastor Dave's church. And green, I would travel the world until it ran out. So the easy life, self-improvement, generosity, or adventure. All right, so just put down whichever one you would like. Easy life is red. Education is blue. Right, there we go. Okay, a lot of you would invest it. Okay, we have investors. They're going to then generously support Pastor Dave's ministry habit. Good. All right, next one, here's a poll. So again, no right or wrong answer. Right now, what is your belief in some sort of God or higher power? Any version of God, okay? Red definitely exists. Blue likely exists. Yellow likely does not exist. Green definitely does not exist, okay? So this is anonymous. I'm not going to, go and look at this later on. I don't know who you are anyhow. So just trying to get a survey here on how your faith is in any God. Definite yes, probably no, definitely no. Okay, there we go. So 18. Last time I did this, I had quite a few in the green and the yellow. So one person thinks God probably doesn't exist. Awesome. Well, great to have you here. This seminar is especially for you, whoever you are. Number 3. Jesus, no, this is more specific, not just a God. Jesus is really the creator of the universe and the Son of God. Jesus really is creator of the universe and Son of God. Red, definite yes. Blue, likely yes. Yellow, likely no. Green, definitely no. This is very specific. Okay, so not just a version of God, but Jesus from the Bible. Okay, 18 and 2. So 18 and likely yes. That's actually there's no yellow here. You notice that? Last time I had a yellow about any version of God, and then when it comes to Jesus, we actually only have blue and red. So good. Poll. Okay, second last question, miracles. Right? So there's people who believe in Jesus, but they don't believe that miracles happen nowadays. Okay? So number 1, I've seen or experienced miracles firsthand. That's red. Blue, miracles happen in the Bible and happen today, just not to me. Or your family, right? Like not, it happens, just not in your circle. Miracles happen in the Bible, not today. Miracles for sure do not happen. Okay. A lot of people have seen it directly. Wow, that's awesome. And the last question, right here we go. Survey, I am... right here, in love with Jesus and a proud SDA. I'm a Jesus follower, not sure about the SDA church. I'm a follower of Jesus, but belong to a different church. I believe in God, but church isn't my thing. Church is a waste of time. The world would be better without organized religion. So you have the whole spectrum. Red is the strongest on one side, purple is the strongest on the other side. Okay? So you're proud to be an Adventist. You're not sure about Adventism, a different church. Okay. So proud to be an Adventist, most of you. One of you, not sure what the SDA church. You're sure about Jesus. Another one is you're a Jesus follower, but go to a different church. Good. Well, I'm glad you're all here. All right. So that is it. We'll do for points tomorrow. All right. And now let's go to the presentation. Here we go. Computer, be happy. Computer, be happy. There we go. All right. So today's story. Tonight we're not going to talk about evidence. We're going to talk about my story with my brother. The tale of two brothers, one a pastor, one an atheist. So started in 2014, January, my mom called me. And I picked up the phone. I'm like, hey, Mom, how's it going? I'm excited to talk to my mom. And immediately I can hear my mom is crying on the other end. And of course, the first thing you think when your loved one calls you crying, you're thinking, who's dead? Right? Car accident, cancer, divorce, something horrible has happened. Because my mom is crying, I can't even hear what she's saying. And I'm asking her, Mom, what's going on? What's going on? Of course, I'm worried about my brother because they live in the same city. Right? My parents are divorced. My dad lives in Saskatchewan. My mom and brother, to this day, still live in Alberta. And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? And then she, through her cries, she manages to get out, Willie doesn't believe in Jesus anymore. I was like, what? What do you mean he doesn't believe in Jesus anymore? Oh, he says it's all a lie, it's all fake. You know, the church brainwashes people, all this stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea my brother was struggling. It's kind of like if you're a doctor and you have a family member get cancer and they never talk to you about it. Like, I know you have your own doctor, but like, I'm family, right? Like, I'm an expert in this area. And like, I'm a pastor, right? I've been to school with this. This is what I get paid to do. Never told me anything until he, quote, got a divorce from God. And I was like, man, I wish I could have talked to him while he was struggling, right? So the first thing I do, I try and calm my mom down a little bit. I pick up the phone, and of course, I call my brother. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, Will, what's going on, man? Mom says you don't believe in God anymore. And he just goes on blast. You know, I call it the ex-girlfriend phase. You know, when people fall in love, they're the best person ever. They're so beautiful or handsome and so funny and so sweet. And then you break up with them and they're so ugly and annoying and their jokes are dumb. And you even know what you saw in them. You know, it goes one extreme. The same person goes from one extreme to the other. So my brother's in the ex-girlfriend phase. It's all a lie. It's all fake. I hope Christians don't make roads because Jesus coming back right away. They're going to make a junk road. I was like, whoa, Will, hold on, man. Dad believes Jesus is coming back right away. He built his own house. He didn't build it for 2 years. He built it to last his lifetime, and he still lives in it. He built it when he first got married, before I was born. So his house is 50 years old, going strong. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? And he just went on blast with me. And as we were talking, you know, you eventually, besides just saying it's all a lie, he's like, how can you believe in God? How can any intelligent, you know, educated person believe in God? And I was like, well, let me check this out, right? But it's just so strange. It's just from the outside you look in, and you're like, how does it get so extreme? So on one side, you have a hostile atheist. So there's atheists who don't believe in God, but if you want to go to church, that's fine. Hostile atheists is they don't believe in God and they think that churches are evil. No one should go to church. Teaching your child about God is child abuse. My brother won't let me pray in his house out loud. So if we have supper there, he won't let us say grace out loud. So that's one extreme. On the other extreme is not just a pastor, but now my expertise is in defending the faith. Right? Not just talking about Jesus, but saying how the story of Jesus is true and why it's true. The term for that is an apologist. Not that I'm sorry about God, but the root word for apology is apologia, which means to defend. Right? So the two opposite extremes. How did we get here? Well, before we get into the evidence, we'll talk about that tomorrow morning. We'll talk about philosophy tomorrow afternoon. Tonight, I want to talk about the story. We're all in a story. We're all on a journey. And our stories are powerful, okay? My experience, even though my brother and I had the same family, same Christian family we grew up with, we attended Christian school most of the time, went to public school a little bit, most of the time was Christian school, and went to the same church, we're in the same church, same Pathfinder club, same mission trips. We go and volunteer to help build an orphanage. There are some very important differences. So the first one is my parents split when I was in grade 4, right? And my dad stayed on the farm in Saskatchewan, and my mom and us boys went to Alberta. So I grew up after grade 4 without really my dad around. I would just see him like at Christmas time. He'd take us go skiing in Banff, and we'd hang out here or there. But in the summer, he's busy farming. So I'd see my dad like a few days a year. Wasn't really physically around. But then when I turned 16, I went and I spent 2 summers working with my dad on the farm. Not only did I learn how to work hard, I was a lazy stink before. There's one time I got 95% in one of my classes, and I was like, oh no, I'm a nerd. So the next semester, I made sure to drop that down to a cool C. Like a 6, I'm like, oh, I'm cool again, you know? When I went working with my dad in the summer, he, kicked my tail a little bit, lovingly, like, son, you got to get the wiggle on. That's how he says work harder. Get the wiggle on, son, let's go. I came back from that summer with my dad, and we were stacking up chairs. Now, before I went to the farm, when there was work to do, like after we had an assembly in the gym and we had to put the chairs away, I was like a Russian spy. I was invisible. Work to do, I was gone. After the summer with my dad, we came back. We had to stack the chairs. And I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. Time is money. Money is time. We're wasting both. My classmate saw me and then heard me. He dropped his chairs, looked at me, and said, who are you, and what have you done with Walter? Now, the other experience was when I spent the summer with my dad. He's a man of God. He's very dedicated to God. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but every morning we would read the Bible together and pray together. Every evening, read the Bible together, pray together, right? And I was away. I was listening to a whole bunch of, I'm not saying all hip-hop and rap is bad. The stuff I was listening to was, okay? So I was away from the music that I was listening to, which, of course, was making a lot of bad choices seem cool, right? I was like this little white farm boy acting like I'm gangsta. Very silly. But, when you're a teenager, that's what my experience was. I was away from, I was watching a lot of those movies like Boys in the Hood and stuff. I was just away from all those influences on the farm with my dad. And when I came back, when I came back with my girlfriend, I had a girlfriend at the time, and we were apart for the summer. We came back together. We were sharing our experience from the summer. Now, she had worked as a lifeguard. Nothing wrong with that. Good, honest work. But she kind of shared her experience. And working as a lifeguard, it wasn't in a Christian environment, right? Again, nothing wrong with being a lifeguard, just all her friends weren't Christians there, and they were drinking, and they invited her to go drinking, and she went drinking with them, went to the bars with them, etc. At the end of one summer, we both grew up in Christian homes, going to church, Christian school, etc. End of one summer, her experience was, I don't think this is my church, this is my parents' church. So she wasn't leaving just yet, but she was on the way to start leaving. Well, then I shared my experience, right? I remember the words I used was, been thinking this summer, and if God is real, I should actually live like it. Now, neither of us said God exists or doesn't exist. We didn't say it's true or it isn't true. Our experience, this is my parents' church, not my church. If God is real, I should live like it. Well, she ended up coming the same direction as me. I had U-turned that summer. She came in the same direction as me. We ended up getting rebaptized. And, of course, I ended up becoming a pastor. Here I am, right? But those 2 summers with Dad were pivotal. My brother never went back and spent that time with Dad. He stayed selling fruit at the fruit stand. Still does it to this day. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not a spiritual experience, okay? Then after, to my dad's breaking heart, I didn't stay on the farm. He wanted me to be a farmer, of course. I then went and spent 3 summers working at Bible camp. At summer camp. And if the first thing with Dad was God is real, at Bible camp, what it was is I learned that following God can be fun. So you see the picture there, right? At summer camp, you have a whole bunch of young Christians, and we're working hard, but man, are we having fun. We had a costume night. I dressed up like a superhero. That's a wetsuit, by the way, with a W for Wally Man. It's my superhero alter ego. And my friend dressed up as a hick. Of course, a funny thing, I was a hick. In fact, I had to take my pocket knife off my hip tonight so I don't look like one. But we had fun there. There's one time when we had the Bible programming at the night. Before we did that, we had some fun and games. And we're all there is like cut into the side of a hill, like a little amphitheater. And the stage is there. And the hill goes up the back. And we hear this hissing sound. We're like, what's going on? We turn around, and two of these counselors are up there in the trees. They put a zip line in going down to the stage, and their feet were on fire. They duct taped model rocket engines to the sides of their shoe and lit them on fire. So there's fire shooting out the back of their feet. They come zipping down like Batman down the zip line. They land on the stage. Boom. There's these two college guys, right? So they're buff, got muscles everywhere, unlike me, right? I'm more of a runner's build. But they land on the stage, these two buff college guys. They grab these tight white shirts they have on. They rip them off like Hulk Hogan. If you're older, you know what I'm talking about. And they're like, I'm Hans. And the other guy's like, rip. I'm Franz. And we're here to pump you up. And the one kid in the back row went to his friend and said, I thought this was a Christian camp. The point was is we had a lot of fun during the game time, that we also made it a lot of fun to learn about Jesus. We didn't just say there like Bible thumping. We had Bible skits and stories and activities. We made learning about Jesus really fun. We made being a camp staff really fun. And that was a really big experience for me. I loved my dad, but he wasn't, tying model rocket engines to his feet, setting them on fire, right? So as God was real, following God was fun. Then I had a full scholarship to the Harvard of Canada. I love science. I love math. I worked hard in high school. I was a punk before I went to my dad's place. He has a grade 3 education, and he makes fun of school. Like, oh, you want to learn something good? You come here and work on the farm, son. I'll teach you some real stuff, not that silly stuff in school you never use. But you know what? I started just putting my effort in. Whatever I did, I wanted to do a good job, including my homework. And my grades got better and better and better. By the time I graduated, I had a full tuition paid my first year to the top pre-med university in Canada called Queen's, the Harvard of Canada. To the behest of my principal at the Seventh-day Adventist school, I turned that scholarship down. I went to the Adventist University. My principal's like, what are you doing, Walter? You have a ride to Queens. Go to Queens, right? But as I prayed about it, I felt God leading me to go to the Christian University, which, by the way, did have an awesome pre-med program. And I was in there learning about science and everything. The thing that really mattered about my spiritual journey was the classes were nice. We'd start the class off with prayer, and you have these, brilliant professors, these PhDs who believe in God. That was nice, but the most important part to me was not the class time, the prayer, or even the worship services we had. The most important part for me was I had access. I go to any one of my professors, knock on their door, and I'm a doubting Thomas. I'm naturally a skeptic. I could sit down with this brilliant scientist or historian or psychologist or whatever their expertise was, and I could grill them in private, because you don't want to ask some of the big questions in front of everyone else, right? But one-on-one, I could grill them for an hour with my toughest questions and my biggest doubts. That was huge for me. When I went to seminary, there's a picture up there of Andrews University. When I went to seminary, one of my favorite professors had a PhD in the relationship between science and the Bible. See, I had gone from studying science undergrad, then I switched to biblical studies to be a pastor. Well, sometimes it's hard to put those two together sometimes, right? And he had a PhD in putting those two together. It was perfect. And I spent, not all the time, but several times I went to his office, knock on the door, and I got to hang out with Dr. Martin Hanna for as long as was reasonable, grilling with my biggest questions and my biggest doubts. And that was really important for me. I don't know if I'd be a Christian if I went to that other university, to be honest with you, right? But I was really, really encouraged by having that access to those brilliant professors. In my journey, I know not only do I like to dirt bike, I love following Jesus, and Jesus calls me to do some crazy stuff sometimes. And the miracles I've seen, not for curiosity, like, Jesus, please give me a new ZR1X in my backyard if you love me. Not that sort of a miracle, but a miracle where God calls you to do something crazy, you pray about it, you do it, and God makes it work. So I quit my job being a pastor in BC. They were going to hire me to do a church plant at North America's largest ski resort, Whistler Blackcomb. You can Google it later, okay? So like the snowboard capital of North America. And then right next to that in the summer is our Yosemite, Squamish, the best rock climbing in Canada. Amazing multi-pitch cliffs. And that's my culture, right? I love the mountains. I love snowboarding, rock climbing, all that, hiking, camping, all that. And I was like, man, I'm going to have to buy a season's pass to serve Jesus, because I got to be where the people are at, and they're at the ski hill. Praise Jesus. Tear, right? I was excited. And then, but while I was there was this place called Benton Harbor, this inner city place in Michigan. By the way, I did not like Michigan. When I moved there, I said, I am never living here. I'm going back to the mountains because Michigan is flat, okay? And I was there in Michigan, and my first week in Michigan, I visited this church. It was this inner city church plant, and it was crazy. They brought kids in off the street. I brought kids in off the street. They said, let's go get them. So we went out. Hey, kids, come to church. Got a great program for you. Come on. We invite them to church, and then I didn't know what the program was. I assumed it was good, right? We put them in a room, and the program was horrible. I was bored. There was no planning. We're just making things up willy-nilly, and I'm like, are we serious, right? The kids looked at me like, you lied to me. I was like, sorry, kid. And then they tried to leave, and we stopped them from leaving. I'm like, I am never going back there. My roommate tried to recruit me. I'm like, no. Long story short, I'm a children's pastor, so I started taking the volunteers there, put them in my car, drive them to Chicago to see a great kids program in the hood, right? The middle-class church program won't necessarily work in the hood all the time. So see an expert program in the hood and then drive back. And I'm training them. I'm on my way out to the ski resort. And I'm there getting these guys trained, and God's like, psst, I want you to stay here. That's a horrible idea, Jesus. Number one, I'm white, right? There's white people in the hood. I'm not them. I'm from Saskatchewan. I'm a farm kid from Western Canada. Like, I don't even know how to spell hood, right? I'm just totally different cultural context. Number one, that's a bad idea. Number two, there's no job here. In BC, I have a job for me and my wife. She can teach in our internet school. So my future wife's fiance then. That's a horrible idea. And God said, I don't care. I mean, I didn't hear him, but I felt it. So I prayed about it for a month, quit my job, moved into the hood. My wife and I, we got married in June. We went on our honeymoon to Hawaii, came back, moved into the hood without a job. God got both of us jobs. And then, we started reaching the kids. They kept coming more and more coming. So we bought a church bus, filled the church bus up. We got a second church bus, third church bus, fourth, fifth. We have those 5 church buses right there, okay? I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just bringing kids to church to learn about Jesus. I don't know where the money's coming from or anything, but it's working. And then it stopped working because I thought buying buses was expensive. You know what's expensive? Not buying buses, running buses. I live in a bus, basically. Any repair, put 3 zeros behind it. We were dropping $35,000 in, this is around 2010 or so, $35,000 per year. That's $70,000 now. And the more kids I get, the less money I have. The more adults Pastor Dave brings in, the more money comes in. I have the opposite. The more kids I bring, the more expenses I have, the less income I have. And I started fundraising. I was fundraising the whole time. I fundraised the buses, right? And so I was like, well, I kind of know how to do this. I had a proposal. I was fundraising as best as I could. No. I would visit rich people. Beautiful presentation. No, I'm sorry. Nothing. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. We're going bankrupt in September. It's August. I'm coming in front of the church. And I'm scared, right? I've done everything I know how to do, right? And I'm up there and we're about to pray. And so I'm explaining to the church, listen, we're running out of money in 1 month. 1 month we have to park the buses and stop bringing kids in to learn about Jesus. And I'm thinking we're going to pray for Jesus to give us money. And then I feel God leading my heart right? I feel God leading my heart and says, Walter, don't ask me for money. Thank me in advance. And I'm like, Jesus, that's a horrible idea. Because that makes both of us look dumb. Because it's not like I wasn't trying. I was trying for 8 months to fundraise, right? But I was like watching my mouth move without my body, right? And I was like, church, we're not going to ask Jesus for the money. We're going to thank him in advance. And I'm like, what a brave pastor. I looked brave on this side. I was not feeling brave on this side. I was like, God, you better do something cool because we're both going down with this one. Well, then, like a week or two later, a normal-looking guy, normal clothes, driving a normal car, finds me. I didn't find him. Finds me, interviews me, finds out what's going on. He's like, what's your plan? I'm like, I don't know. I need to find someone rich that likes the ministry. He's like, I could help you out some. Again, normal-looking guy. I was like, okay, like how much? Like, you're talking 1,000, 10,000? He looks me in the eye, says, meh, 100, 200 grand. Who shrugs their shoulders at 100, 200 grand? Now, on the outside, I'm a professional. On the outside, I'm like, oh, interesting. On the inside, I'm like, oh my goodness, he shrugged his shoulders at 200 grand, right? I asked him for 35,000. That's what I needed then. He gave me 150 right before I went bankrupt. You can call that luck. But like, I've had that happen. That motorhome, the money I could pull out of the bank, right? Because the banks don't give you the money. It's my money. They don't give it to you. I asked my dad for some money. He gave me more than I asked. I had the money shoved in my socks and my shirt, my pockets, in case I get robbed. I can't lose it all, right? I went to bargain this guy down for that motorhome. You know how much he came down to? $62,000. I lost track of the money all over my body. Now, it was all external, okay? It was all external. It's all on the outside. But I started pulling up the money and counting out, you know how much money I had? Again, more than I asked my dad, he gave me $62,000. Right? We were driving that motorhome to Arizona. I'm not at my church anymore. I haven't been there for months. This is Friday. I look at my wife and say, you know what? We need to buy our friend a car. I don't go around buying people cars. That's not, like, I'm not Oprah, you know? And I tell my wife, like, we need to buy Dawn a car. She was like, oh, okay, I'm so glad I told her. Saturday, no one knew she needed the car, including Dawn. Dawn is driving her car to church on Saturday. The next day, her car breaks down. She doesn't tell anybody until Sunday. She puts the prayer request out. My wife is on the prayer email list with our old church. My wife says, guess who needs a car? Dawn? Yeah, her car broke down on Saturday. How did I know on Friday? 0 people knew on Friday, including Dawn. And I don't say this all the time. Literally, God somehow spoke to me. I'm like, Sarah, we need to buy Dawn a car. She had a Honda. She's fine. We need to buy Dawn a car. Is that luck? I love science. I don't believe that's luck. So I've seen miracles happen. Sorry, those other ones weren't part of it. We're going a little bit longer tonight, but that's okay. There's no Sabbath school afterwards. Last one here. Do your own research. So I watched this video, which my brother also watched, called the God Delusion. That believing in God is so stupid, it's like a delusion. And at first, I was like taken back. I was like, whoa. I've never had my faith attacked. And this guy's a PhD. This guy's a professor, scientist, expert, Richard Dawkins. And he articulated it. He went bang, bang, bang. And I was like, man, I wasn't ready for that in seminary. What the random? And I was taken back a little bit, like, let me see. So I got on Google, and I saw his video and his book. Then I got another book, not called The God Delusion, another book called The Dawkins Delusion. Also by a PhD named Alistair McGrath, atheist who became a Christian. You with me? So now we're going PhD versus PhD. And Alistair McGrath took every one of his arguments one by one and took them apart. So the point is, I did my own research. I checked both sides of the argument. When I looked at both sides, I thought the side supporting faith in God made more sense, had better evidence, better logic. Okay? That, by the way, is a copy of Daniel. So one of the big controversies, is the book of Daniel prophetic? Because skeptics, for hundreds of years, since 200 years after Jesus, skeptics have said Daniel is so accurate, it's written after the events happened, pretending to be prophecy. Of course, I can prophesy about last year really good, right? So Daniel is a fake. Well, then the Dead Sea Scrolls came along. That's a picture of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And that is from about 165 years after Jesus. So I looked into that as well, and it's a whole other sermon. The bottom line is Daniel is prophetic based on the best evidence we have. So here's the problem. How can Daniel predict the future? We have the scrolls that we didn't discover until World War II, 1946. We have quotes from 200 years after Jesus until World War II saying Daniel is so accurate, it's fake. Then we found the Dead Sea Scrolls that pushed our Old Testament 1,300 years older, because the oldest Old Testament was 1,000 years after Jesus, before the Dead Sea Scrolls. You see, so you could say, oh, it's all made up, Christians edited it, whatever. Well, then we found the Dead Sea Scrolls and killed that. Also prophecies of Jesus. Dead Sea Scrolls predate Jesus because the prophecies were so good in Psalms 22 and Isaiah 53. We have the quotes from skeptics saying these were changed by Christians. Number one, Jews don't let you mess with their Bible. They're very fussy. They burn their old Bibles, right? Number two, we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the word in Psalms 22 is pierced my hands, which is written before crucifixion existed. You with me? So do your own research. Well, conversion happens, right? Most of us who are Christian, conversion happens when you're in a religious environment, like you grow up in a Christian family, go to church, go to Christian school, etc. You have religious experience. Somewhere along there, you make your faith your own. Maybe it's at a weekend retreat. Maybe you're just laying in bed and you're just praying to God, and you're like, you know what, God, let's do this. Let's make this thing real. Whatever it is, you have a religious experience, and then you make a religious commitment. Deconversion, we don't talk about that very much, is basic conversion backwards. You go from religious environment to a non-religious environment, and sometimes you like it better. You go from a Christian school to public school, like, hey, this is more fun in the public school. You go from a Christian workplace to a non-Christian workplace. Like, people are actually friendlier over here. That happens. That happens, right? And you actually like the other environment better sometimes. Number two, you have a religious experience, and you have a faith-crushing event, like the death of a loved one. And you're like, I want to believe in God. But how could a God of love allow my precious mother, wife, husband, child, friend to die such a horrible death? That's what happened with my sister-in-law. She became an atheist before my brother from the death of her father. Her father had a rough death. Okay? And what it feels like, the experience is, I can't believe in God anymore. Now, of course, there are people who go through the same experience, like the death of a loved one, who actually hold on to God more. Right? Some people hold on to God more when horrible things happen. Some people let go of God. But they would describe it as, I can't believe in God anymore. Okay? Number three, you make a religious commitment, and sometimes you just think your way out of faith. I was in the Bible lands, in a hotel in Jerusalem, literally walking the same paving stones that Jesus walked, because those are the big ones. King Herod was a big boy who made big buildings, and the other ones are little stones. The big stones are Herod's. So we're walking literally the same stones Jesus walked on. My friend is there who's a pastor like me, and he shared his faith struggles. And nothing he shared was new. But he needed black and white answers. I was like, well, sometimes you don't have that, Sometimes you don't have that. But he couldn't handle that mystery. He needed the black and whiteness. And a couple months later, he was in front in the Caribbean doing a seminar, kind of like this. And in the middle of it, he went up front one day and said, you know what? I'm sorry, I just don't believe in this stuff anymore. And walked off the stage, And so sometimes you just think your way out of your faith. Too much cognitive dissonance. So if you have a loved one who's struggling, here's a couple guidelines. Don't give faith-based answers to fact-based questions. Don't give shallow answers to deep questions. Oh, well, everything happens for a reason. No, don't say that. Sometimes it's better not to say anything. Or say you don't know. A good excuse for you to do some research. But don't give baby answers to big boy and big girl questions. And then listen to what version of God they're rejecting. Whenever someone rejects God, they're rejecting God as they understand him. That is a version of God. The anti-fun God. The anti-science God. Okay? The legalistic God. There's a version of God, and what happens when you listen to the version they're rejecting, I agree with them. I agree with most atheists. I also reject the version of God that Richard Dawkins rejects. The problem is that's not Jesus. Jesus isn't anti-science. Jesus isn't anti-fun. He had so much fun, people called him a drunkard. Right? Are you having so much fun that people think you're drinking too much? Now, don't drink. I'm not saying that. Jesus was not a drunkard. But he was obviously having fun. You don't call boring Christians drunkards. And sometimes what's keeping people back from believing in God is we're not having enough fun. It's important for us to have a life, right? I love your pastor is going out running. Good. There's people like, oh, this guy actually has a life. He's going to London to run. Now, I don't want to run a marathon. I'd rather go rock climbing, right? But the point is, if your life is boring, even if God is real, there are people say, I'll have fun now and burn in hell than be boring. People literally think that. Because now is for sure. Maybe heaven is real. Now is real for sure. So make sure you have fun. Well, let's contrast it with my brother's experience here. I'll make this reasonably quick. I love sharing stories. I'll be quicker tomorrow, I promise. So my brother and myself and most of our teenage friends, I'm not saying we should have, but we were very resourceful. This is before the internet. We were able to get magazines like that one, right? That's one of the famous ones, right? We were able to get magazines like that. You know, we'd find it in a drawer hidden. There'd be a lock. We'd pick the lock. And most of us would look at the pictures for obvious reasons. Again, not saying we should have. I'm just saying we did. My brother not only looked at the pictures, he read the articles. See, Playboy magazine would hire some of the best article writers in the world to write really well-written articles. And they'd be about cars, about business, about whatever. When they would come to relationships, they would purposefully promote the Playboy lifestyle and the Playboy values. So my brother not only looked at the pictures, he internalized the values. It's not natural to wait till you're married. There's one time he asked my dad and I, where does the Bible say you shouldn't be with your girlfriend before you're married? And we were like, are you serious? The Bible over here, and over here, and over here, and over here. But is it really? I'm like, yeah, it really does say it. But it was like couldn't see it, right? Didn't want to see it. So he not only looked at pictures, though, but he really took the values of the Playboy lifestyle. I went to a Christian university. My brother went to a public university. Now, lots of people go to public university and still believe in God. There's many professors who are Christians at public universities. But in my brother's experience, when he went there, he didn't just learn about business. One of his favorite classes, he remembers to this day, was a class in evolutionary psychology. Basically, you're not a child of God. You're a chimp with an oversized brain. Chimps are promiscuous. That's natural. So it isn't only unnatural to wait till you're married, it's unnatural to be married to one person. That we should all just be sleeping around with whoever, whenever, like chimps do. Now, the problem is they want to take the values, the sexuality from the chimps, but not the violence. Because chimps are brutal. They wage war, and there's no mercy. There's no white flag. There's no POWs, right? I mean, soldiers that are killing each other right now in Ukraine and Russia, now not all the time, but there's times they wave the white flag, and the very same soldier they were trying to kill a minute ago, they'll take that soldier, feed them, and get them a doctor. Chimps don't do that. So in university, we take their morals, we take their sexuality, that's what humans should do, but then we leave their violence. Hey, if you want to play the science game, play the science game. You want to take their values? Take all their values. It's only natural. If it's natural for chimps to brutally murder and rape each other and eat baby chimps, why not humans? If we're only smarter versions of chimps, why not? Anyways, sorry, preaching to you there. 4 years public university, biggest class for him, biggest influence was evolutionary psychology. Another one, frankly, I agree with him on, is we both grew up in Christian families, and we weren't Adventists. We grew up Seventh-day Adventist Reform movement. It's like a stricter version of Adventism, and it was very big that we have the truth. We have the prophecies. The Bible is true, and we have the true version of prophecies. All those other churches are wrong. That's a simplification, but it's a bit of what was going on. And then the problem is, we have the truth and God is love, but then on both sides of my family, my Canadian side and my Brazilian side, I'm half Brazilian, my mom's Brazilian, on both sides there are family members who can go decades without talking to each other. There'll be these long-term fights. And if God is real and you follow God and God is love, why can't you get along? And that's true. If we have the truth and we have the best pastor and the best technology and the best outreach and people come here and we're busy arguing over the music or arguing over this or arguing over that controversy or get politics involved, we have nothing to offer. And so my brother was just like, you know what? If God is real, why doesn't he really work? Right? And then, of course, we talked about this. He saw the video with Richard Dawkins. That helped. It didn't put him over the edge yet, but he was already having a lot of those thoughts. And in my brother's words, he said, Richard Dawkins put into words a lot of things I was already thinking. Okay? And so he saw this, did not read the other side, right? He didn't go apples to apples. He just saw the one side, didn't go for PhD answers, right? And then the straw that broke the camel's back, according to my brother, there's a picture of my brother there on the right. That's my son, my friend. This is my dad's farm in Saskatchewan, by the way. We have a tradition in our family. As the sun is setting on Friday, we come together and have a special Bible time. We read the Bible, sing some songs, and pray together to start the Sabbath day, which starts Friday at sunset to Saturday at sunset, like what the Jews do in Jerusalem. Okay? There's tradition. So my brother, he was out there, and he wants to be out in nature. He loves the outdoors like I do. And he went to my dad. We were going to have that family Bible time inside. He said, hey, Dad, when we go outside and sit on top of the big buildings and watch the sunset for our Sabbath Bible time? And according to my brother, his version was my dad said, no, son, this is how we do it around here. You're welcome to join us. And my brother's words is that's when I knew it wasn't about God, it was about tradition. And that was a straw that broke the camel's back, according to my brother. Now, my dad heard me share that story, and he called me up afterwards and said, you know, son, I'd like to share the other side of that story as well. And he shared how he would be totally fine going outside to watch the sunset, to start the Sabbath watching the sunset on one of the buildings. But everybody was already in the living room sitting down. My brother was late as he came in. So my brother never told me that. He was late. Everyone's already there. And then he comes in late, says, hey, let's go outside. My dad's like, hey, man, we're already all here, you know, like we're doing a thing. You're coming in late, and then you want us to jump up and run outside, you know. And so there's a little bit more to the story. But that is my brother's experience, you know. And again, growing up in the same family, same school, same Pathfinder, same church, there are some noticeable differences here between his experience and my experience. You know, at first, my brother was in the honeymoon phase, being like, hey, it's awesome, man. I get to sleep in on Saturday, get to keep all my own money. The kids can just watch cartoons instead of dragging them to church. You know, I got more time to go dirt biking, whatever, right? But then over time, he's softened. He's still he's still out there, but he's a little bit further in. Like he said, you know, some people are happier believing in God. I was like, oh, okay. Another time he said, you know, I miss going to church and seeing all my friends every week. And he's still friends. His friendship circle, most of them are still the Christians, from church, you know? And another thing he said, it's easier to teach your kids values. Like, it's easier to teach your kids not to lie because Jesus says so, than with his younger kid, try to teach his younger kid not to lie, and he's like, well, why? Rules are just things we make up, right? You know, it was one time my brother and I, we were having it out, and I was listening to him share all his different things, and none of them really surprised me, right? Again, I'm a pastor. I'm kind of trained on some of this. And he turned to me and said, Walter, how can you believe in God? Like, seriously, you know, I read a lot. I really like science. I like hearing both sides of the story. And this time, is after he was gone for about a year, after he'd left the faith for about a year, I was ready. I'd gone back. I'd done my homework. I'd checked my own doubts as well. And I turned to him, I said, you know, honestly, when I look at the evidence on both sides, I mean, I got questions, but I think overall the evidence is better on Team Jesus. I honestly think that's what it is. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I think the effect is better. I studied not just the science or the evidence that God is real, I studied sociology of religion, psychology, the effects of believing in Jesus, and here's what the science says. People who regularly pray, who regularly attend church, and especially who regularly read their Bible, not once or twice a week, 4 times or more per week, they are happier, they are healthier, they live longer, they have a better marriage, they have a better love life, right? They have better kids, lower depression, lower suicide. We still have problems, but we have less, right? Harvard School of Public Health says if regular church attendance was a pill, I'd be a billionaire. He calls regular church attendance the elixir of life. Google that. Elixir of life, Harvard School of Public Health. Okay? So there's the effect. The evidence is better. The effect, your life is better with Jesus than without Jesus. That's a scientific fact, by the way. Number 3, my personal experience. I've seen God change my life, and I've just seen miracles happen. I'm like, how did I know to buy my friend a car the day before the car broke down? That's not science. But the truth is, emotions and experiences often influence us more than just logic or evidence for God. That's why I love sharing the story. That being said, though, the evidence is very important. And tomorrow, I'm going to very briefly, again, we could do this for 3 weeks. I'd love to do this for 3 weeks. Tomorrow morning, we'll very briefly share what I believe is the best evidence that God actually does exist from science and from history. All right, that'll be in the morning. In the afternoon, we'll go into, on the more emotional side, if God is love, why do bad things happen? That's not evidence. That's emotional. That's an emotional and spiritual question. That's different. So in the morning, we'll do evidence. In the afternoon, we'll do philosophy and emotions. That's it for my presentation tonight. I would love to share more. I want to see if there's any questions. God isn't scared of your questions, and neither am I. Is there anybody here who has a question you feel comfortable sharing? I think you have the mic, right, Pastor Dave? I hope so. Oh, right here we go.
Yeah, we'll bring the mic to you. Any questions? Boy. I just got to say you did an amazing job. I really appreciated how much you pack into such a bit of time, so thank you. I learned a lot
I hope
tonight.
it felt short.
Yeah, it went by so quick. Run.
Rather than a question, it's really more of a comment. Your brother coming in, sort of the last straw. People tend to, at that point, be ready to put a definition to what they see because they're already there. So they get this prophecy, self-fulfilling kind of prophecy, and he reads that in. So his mind was not ready to see that in a neutral way. His mind was ready to see that as the final straw.
Yeah, and see, for me, one of the things, my brother hasn't traveled. Well, he's traveled for fun. He hasn't traveled to different churches, so he only really knows the church we grew up in and the house church for my dad. So he's really only has experience in 2 faith communities. I've been a pastor, and as a pastor, I've traveled to 1,000 churches. So if I have a negative experience in one church, to me, that's that church, right? That's not all churches. When you've only really been a part of 2 churches, and they're both more, if you want to say more rules-based, or that's your experience, well, then to you, that's all churches, right? And so with my dad, like my dad's more traditional than I am. But I don't see that as God's problem. Just my dad's more old-fashioned than I am, right? And so I separate these two. And part of it is my wider experience in a variety of churches, right? Well, again, working at summer camp was very non-traditional. Like we put our feet on fire, came down a zip line, right? And so this was a big contrast. Again, I don't want to insult anyone's church. I just think it's important to have a variety of experiences. But yeah. Question over here? I love that. You opened it up. Now the can of worms is open. It's great.
When my brother was young, he worked for a creation ministry.
Mm-hmm.
The leader of that ministry was jailed, and my brother became an atheist. I avoid the topic of God with him because I don't want to offend him.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a good relationship. He and I. He
Mm-hmm.
comes to my house for special events. What would be a good question to ask him or to help bring him back without offending him?
Well, I love what you said, not what's a good thing to tell him. You said, what's a good question to ask? And for me, maybe partly because I'm a pastor, we naturally like to tell more. And I think the question is good. You know, with my experience with my brother, he's softened, but he's not come back. You know, he's kind of like gone 100 steps that way and come back 3 steps, is how I describe it. What people say, when people say, I don't believe in God because of this, or this, it's almost never this, or this. So my brother will say, there's no evidence for God, which of course, I mean, right? There really is. I've named my ministry Evidence for God. And then I'll say, do you want to hear some? No, not really. So that's not the issue, right? And there are these experiences, these negative experiences my brother's had or whatever. But one time I challenged him. I said, well, you know, you say Christians are closed-minded. Well, then you should be open-minded. Yeah. Well, one of the litmuses of being open-minded is you're open to changing your mind. So I said, I've done my evidence. You show me how we got the story in the Gospels that Jesus resurrected from the dead when he didn't. You show me any precedent, like, you know, using what police do with CSI, crime scene investigation, how you can get that story in the New Testament. Because we have the manuscripts, right? We'll talk about that tomorrow. You know, you can prove the resurrection didn't happen, or show how it's not historically reliable. You show me how you can have creation. We'll talk about that tomorrow morning. Like you can falsify this, I'll change my mind. Is there anything that would change your mind? No, not really. Like, what if Jesus was in front of your house floating in a glowing orb of holy light, you know? Not AI generated light, real light. And he's floating there, and he's like, William, check out my scars. Look at my scars, feel my side, you know? And there's 100 scientists hooking Jesus up with all these scientific measurements, right? His heart rate, his blood sugar level, blood pressure, everything. He's all hooked up to all the gizmos you can think of, and it's being live streamed on every social media platform, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everything. So everyone on the planet can see this at once. Would you believe then? No, because it'd be my perception. Well, then I was like, well, there's nothing I'm going to convince my brother with if floating, glowing Jesus won't convince him. So the thing is, when people say this, it's a smokescreen for something else. You know, with my brother, he loves adventure and freedom, and I really think he sees Christianity, going back to the Playboy morality, as limiting your freedom. And so now he's no longer married. He can go all over the world. If God doesn't exist, he can go all over the world and sleep with anybody he wants whenever he wants, which doesn't work out very good in the long run, which he's finding out the hard way, to be blunt, right? But like he has to go and experience it. Like you're not happy because you don't have freedom. Okay, have freedom. Are you happy now? You know? And so for him, what I pray, I'm going dirt biking with him in a couple weeks. We love dirt biking together. I just pray, God, help me be a blessing. So I'll wake up early, I'll read my Bible. He loves sleeping, and I'll wake up early, read my Bible, and then I'll cook breakfast for the two of us and not whine about him sleeping in, you know, and just try and bless him and and then also just kind of show him, like he's seen, I don't have a perfect marriage. Here's my wife, by the way, in the back. And just let him see. We have something he will never have with short-term relations. Like you can't have, no one's going to have your back. You break your spine in a motorcycle accident and you're paralyzed, your girlfriend's gone. That's how that works. My wife has my back and he knows it. Right? It's not the same. Like, do you want to have a mango or do you want to have a mango candy? This one's probably sweeter in the short term. This one is sweet and it's nutritious. This is the real thing, right? And so sometimes I pray like God, if you got to bring some hard stuff his way, bring it. You know, I want to see my brother come back. You know, and you know, we'll see. We just kind of keep praying. But I would say, you know, ask the questions more. So I ask the questions, and it's like, it's not evidence. If glowing Jesus won't bring him back, everything I share with you guys is irrelevant to him. So, but I'm also having fun with him. It's not boring to follow Jesus. I'm there dirt biking with him, whereas other friends won't go dirt biking, right? I'm trying to show him that, you know, that it's good to follow Jesus. So, but yeah. No easy answers in situations like that. And like the way I compare it to, I'll say this: there's people who are always going to vote this way. There's people who are always going to vote that way. There's nothing you can say to change their mind. I focus on the swing voters. Now, he's my brother, so I pray for him, right? I have a relationship. Overall, I want the swing voters. People are on their way out of church. People are on their way into church. People who are curious, who are willing to change their mind. Then you show them, oh, there's actually evidence. Here's a bunch of atheists who became Christians. Oh, now that's interesting, right? Who are experts in their field, you know, et cetera. So yeah. But, you know, when it's a family member, you keep praying, ask questions, and try and explore why they don't believe. Like a surgeon, find out where it is, because no use having surgery here when it's not there. And what they first say isn't it. You got to explore it with them as they feel safe. All right, any other questions? All right, we'll have some time tomorrow afternoon as well. I don't think in church we'll have time.
I have a question, kind of a comment and a question. I love how you bring how we can have fun and be a Christian, and I love that part. And as a pastor, I've discovered that most of the time when someone was a believer and then leaves, it was because of a hurt. Almost always. Not always,
Usually.
But usually, and I've discovered that. And you already mentioned this, but tell me about the God you don't believe in, and that's what I asked. And I don't believe in that God either. Mm-hmm. But we live in a postmodern age, and I've discovered as a pastor over the years, there's a whole generation. They don't care if there's a God. What is that God going to do? So what if there is a God, or why should I believe in him? Mm-hmm. Because what is he going to do for me? Mm-hmm. So maybe you could even, in a presentation, say, explain to us, how do we reach this class of people, this postmodern generation that says, so what if there's a God? Why do I even need to believe in him?
Why does it even matter?
Why does it matter?
This isn't an answer. I'll say this. The younger generation seem to really drift away, right? The new generation now, my nephew, right? My brother's older son, he's 19 or 20, I think he's 20. That generation is coming back to church. You look it up, especially young men. Usually, as far as I've always known, it's always more women in church than men, right? But now the younger generation, right, the 25 and under, it's the men are coming back to church more than the women. It's really interesting, you know, and you know, so I'm trying to research that as well, and they're looking for meaning. So kind of religion got trashed, especially, you know, where my brother left as a few years ago after September 11. All religion is bad because look what it made these evil terrorists do. So it isn't just Islam, it's all religion is bad. Well, then a lot of young people left that and said, okay, well, that's horrible. We'll find other meaning. They found that meaning empty, and now they're coming back. And ironically, like J.D. Vance, the vice president, he went back to Catholicism. Right? And it seems, as I'm looking at it, I'm not seeing them coming back to Adventism very much. They're going to the old, and they're not going to the mega churches, the really cool hip ones. A lot of them, from what I'm seeing, they're going back to the traditional churches with a lot of ceremony and a lot of symbolism. So it's a neat thing. I need to look into it more. But again, one-on-one relationship, yes. I don't have a general answer to that right now, but what they're saying is they're looking for meaning and purpose. So let's close out with prayer. I'll say here, as long as you guys got more questions, what always happens, we close the official one, and people leave, and like 2 or 3 people come up and say, well, Pastor Walter. And so it's okay. It's just how it is. Let's have closing prayer, shall we? Dear Lord, thank you for this time we can be here in Colorado Springs. Thank you for all these amazing people that came in here on a Friday night. They could be at home, relaxing with their feet up on the couch, but they're here, in this building here, listening to these presentations, Lord. And Lord, as we have explored the stories we've shared today, and maybe some of the ways that we can, just reach out to people to support them in their journey, to not Bible thump them, but to ask them questions and to just love on people, Lord. That, Lord, wherever we are in our faith journey, wherever the people around us are in their faith journey, Lord, may we be able to ask the hard questions in a safe place. And as we explore you deeper and dig into some of these questions, may we find the best answers we can on one side, Lord, and on the other side be able to accept there's some mystery involved, that nobody has all the answers, and that's okay. We can have enough answers. I pray that people attending here this weekend will find more answers than they had before. Their faith will be strengthened, and at least some of their questions will be answered. In Jesus' name, all of God's children said, Amen. Amen. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Again, if you have questions, come on up here. I live right next door, so I'm not in a hurry.
I was born in northern Montana. From my mother's side, they came into Saskatchewan from Austria. In
Okay.
1904. So just northeast of Virginia. When you said that you're from Saskatchewan, I said, oh, I still got family up there. Never been there, but
My wife is actually from Montana.
was